Mind the Gap. The power of sharing answers to questions never asked. Just ask. That's what we did with a few of your parents in January. We asked questions that don't come up in everyday conversation because we wanted to hear what hadn't been said. Questions about marriage, about good decisions, and about regrets. The wisdom and fear that come with growing old. Questions about families and children, like how do you raise great children?
Dictatorship.
That's not true.
It's our way or the highway. Tough love, really. Knowing what is the right thing to do and what is wrong.
Well, children are wise. They don't pay any attention to what you say. They watch what you do.
You can talk forever, but if you don't live it, they have learned nothing.
Don't read too many books. Don't take too much advice. You can work it out for yourself.
They need to be just surrounded with love and know that they're loved for who they are, not what they do.
I think I gave my kids a lot of freedom to be themselves, and that's why sometimes they surprise me with their choices. They weren't my choices necessarily, but I respected them and their own journey, really, to be whoever they were here to be.
Especially when they go through the terrible twos, or even if it lasts into the threes, fours, and through their teenage years. Just put a little picture of them up in your mirror of when they were little, and remember that little person is still inside of them, no matter how big they get. That little loving, wonderful person you brought into the world.
Hold them, squeeze them, and keep them close to you. And give them a lot of adventure.
How have you managed the family money?
We've never had any problem managing money. She's always done it.
Well, he liked to spend, and I was kind of cheap, so we worked it out pretty good.
What do you regret?
There's a lot of regrets because of the age I was born into. My brother went to Cambridge, and I did not because I was a girl. And so, yes, if I'd had all the opportunities of my brother, I'd be the king now.
One of the biggest mistakes that I ever made was dropping out of college. Why was it a mistake? Because I'd be a better person if I had finished. I would be a better rounded person.
I guess I would try and show more love to my children. And I thought that I did it in a way that made sense to me, but I guess I would have liked to have seen it more from their perspective, because what I think is love may not be what they think is love.
I wish I had been able to spend more time with both of my parents before they passed away.
When her mother went through hospice and she was we got a call from them, and
Yes.
she waited.
Yeah, she did.
For us to get there.
She waited for us to get there, and I did go, and we did go into the hospital, and I held her hand as she died.
What questions do you wish you had asked your own parents?
My own mother? I wish I'd asked her how come she never talked about my father, because he died when I was 4, and she never talked about him. That was a stiff New England background.
Anne's parents were Danish. Her parents were involved in the Danish underground. They helped hide the Jews during the war. They had them in their home, just like the Diary of Anne Frank. They lived that same story. They had them hidden in their homes.
Those were difficult times, and they would still bring tears to my mother's eyes. So I never really pushed her to tell me these stories, and I'm sorry I didn't do that, because I've lost part of my history. My children have lost some history.
I wish I would have asked my dad a little bit more about what his relationship was with his father and how he made certain decisions to come back into the family business. And I probably would have loved to say, how hard was that decision for you? I mean, what was it like the night that my grandfather died and my dad had to decide, I'm going to do it?
What I would have asked them is, what would you have liked to have done had you lived in different times? And what would you, now that you're older, what would you have liked for me? When I was having Sean, I went into labor with Sean, my mother was saying, pull yourself together. Pull yourself together. Don't make such a noise. I mean, this is what I came from. So I'm not sure I could have had a conversation if you want to know the truth.
Why has your marriage endured?
She's giving in all the time.
That's probably true. Our granddaughters have asked me that. How did you know you loved him? I said, I didn't know whether he could support me. I didn't know what he did. I knew he was a carpenter back then. I guess it was just love. That's what it was for me.
I just really didn't get married to get divorced. I got married to be married and take that journey. And as with all journeys, it's not always has everything. And there's lots of great surprises, and there's some, pitfalls you fall into. And then you climb back up, and the journey continues, and it's delightful.
I had a wonderful friend who said to me once when I was really angry with this person, she said, Ann, why did you marry him in the first place? And that got me to thinking, why did I marry him? Because he's smart, he's driven, he takes good care of me, and he loves me to pieces. What more could you want?
I can't imagine her leaving me.
You're too expensive for you anyhow.
Well, that's true, yeah. But I think that we really have a deep love for each other.
What's the secret to staying young?
Being ornery.
I'm a healthy 76-year-old, for God's sake. No, don't waste your time. Doesn't matter if you're 18 or 76, does it?
The secret of aging well, I think, is to get up and do something, to be engaged, to take on important tasks, to plant a tree, start a business, begin a mission.
There's always a list. There's always something that I haven't quite completed. And I think that keeps me going.
We just spent 2 days snowmobiling this last 2 days.
We never stop. We're on the go all the time doing something. And I think that contributes to it.
And we work hard. We've both worked hard all our lives and still do.
What got you through your darkest days?
But when you hit that well of grief and it just is deeper than you've ever realized that grief could be, you just have to go through it and hold on.
When I feel really blue about something, I love going up into the Aspen country. That's my church. Yeah, and if you ask questions and you listen, oftentimes you'll hear the answer right out of your own head.
How do you want your children and your grandchildren to remember you?
I want them to remember how much we love them.
That they were totally accepted. Our love for them is totally unconditional. Always will be.
I guess I'd like them to remember that I loved Jesus, that I loved our country, and that I loved our family very, very much. It's okay with me if they also remember that I loved business, pizza, ice cream.
I hope they see me as I truly am and not try to make me into something I'm not or make me better.
Well, we were in Italy back in September. We were touring a winery which produces Brunello. And you can store that for 35, 40 years. So I bought a case of it. I put it on the bottom shelf of the wine cellar, and I told the kids I bought that, and when we die, you can celebrate our life with those dozen bottles of Brunello.
As you face the possibility of life without each other, what goes through your mind?
I wouldn't know what to make, cook in the kitchen, because I cook for 2 people. What do you want to cook for 1? I'd go to bed at night and it'd be very, very, very lonely. It'd be very lonely.
I think about it more and more, about what's going to happen to me if she goes first. And if I go first, I got a lot of men that probably would chase her, but I know she'll stay right through to the grave,
What's the best decision you've ever made?
Sitting right next to her.
Me too. Going into business for yourself.
Getting married.
Yep, Mary Nan. She turned me down 3 times first. 2.
It might have been 4.
3. It was 3. But begging and groveling works. So,
Oh, to have my little boy and my little girl. You know, I do think my family is probably the greatest joy in my life.
Will, Sean, Jeff, Chris, Robin, Phelps, Justin, and Byron. Your parents have provided us with an amazing gift. One that shows us that really communicating with people we love can enrich us in ways we haven't imagined. We learned all we have to do is just ask.